is meant to do because I might have a little bit of background noise, but please just bear with me. I'll try to be as clear as possible. So today I'll be talking about cloud computing. I'm going to be talking about the cloud concept. And when I have this conversation, because I do training, I understand what it means when people take their time to join your training. And the truth is, all of this information, we have them on the internet. People can as well just go and, you know, look for this information, read about them. But when people take their time to join events like this, they probably need like clear answers and they want to ask questions. So I always try as much as possible to, connect what I'm saying to stuffs we see around us. So I'll try today to make that also clear enough when I go through this slide. So I'm not really a slide person because I believe in practicals. So the slide is just so you can see what I'm explaining about, but I'll try to go in more as I'm going through the slide. So this is just the intro slide, and this is just like an introduction of myself. I already, explained my name and all of that. And this is also my LinkedIn page. You can always just search for me, Solomon Jeremiah. I always answer questions a lot from different people, and you can see most of this information there as well. So today, what we'll be talking about cloud computing, right? And we'll be covering like the first outline we have here, which is cloud computing. Then we'll move to the next, which is cloud benefits. And then we are going to go to the last, which is the cloud service types. Now I'm going to move. So this is cloud computing. Before I start defining cloud computing and all of that, I know, like I said earlier, people can actually read most of these stuffs online. But how do people understand what exactly we're talking about cloud computing? If I go to the next slide, you're going to see this definition, very short, simple, and is actually explaining what cloud computing is all about. But then before I read this, you can probably read what you're seeing on the screen. But before I read this, I just want us to, take ourselves back to the real world where we are all in. Do you remember a time where we had Java phones? I don't know if people had Java phones or probably had phones that, you would probably use them to take pictures and then your memory is all filled up. And what do you do next? You probably need to start, going to get a memory card from one of these tech shops or these gadget shops. And once you get the memory card, probably like 32 gig, you start downloading movies from your friends, music, taking more pictures, and then the 32 gig gets filled up. What are you going to do next? You probably say, oh, probably I need to get a 64 gig memory card. Now, when you're getting that 64 gig memory card, what would you be thinking? You'll probably be thinking of how you would either take off the 32 gig, keep it somewhere, and when you keep that 32 gig somewhere, what will you do next? You're going to insert the 64 gig. But on the other hand, you will probably say, I still need to access my images, my music, and all of that. So you're probably looking for how you're going to, copy the files you have in the 32 gig into the 64 gig, then you insert it into the phone you're using. And people were doing that, like people enjoyed, just inserting memory card and all of that. And probably you have a friend and you're just trying to give your friend something. You probably need to go to his house. And for some of us, we use infrared or Bluetooth to send like a very large file. And that was how things were going on. Like that was how we're dealing with, our data and those little stuffs. Now I'm just talking about you and me. But as we started seeing technology changing, right now, I don't know how many people have gone to get memory card. I'm not talking about photographers that use those high-end cameras and all of that. But now you just have an iPhone and you probably have like 256 gig. It's already filled up. The next thing you just probably need to do, you just like, oh, I can just pay for an iCloud. And you're looking through the prices for iCloud and you're seeing that, hey, this is 100 gig. Okay, I'll pay for 100 gig. And by the time your 100 gig is getting filled up, you'll be like, oh, I need to expand this to probably 200 gig. And the next thing, you expand it to 200 gig. You're not thinking of, saying, oh, let me move the files from my 100 gig into the 250 gig. You're just, they're just expanding your storage and you're just using it. Now, this is you enjoying the cloud service as a user. This is just in the like basic tech. Now let's shift away from the cloud service, right? Now I probably have a movie on my laptop and I'm watching the movie. My neighbor wants to watch the movie. I'll probably tell them, hey, you want to watch the movie? Do you have a flash drive? Or can you probably come visit me so you can sit beside me and watch the movie on my laptop? But now we see people just say, oh, okay, you want to watch the movie or you want to view the pictures. Don't worry, I'll just upload it on my OneDrive, on my Google Drive. I'll send you the link. Then you access it. Now, if we look at all of these two things I just mentioned, right? We have our files and then we needed more storage. We moved them to maybe our iCloud, our OneDrive. And then anytime we want to access this file, we just go and access them on either our OneDrive, iCloud, or probably we are sending the link to our friend. Our friend just needs to access them through the link. Now, one thing is common among all of these. For us to access these files, we need internet, right? We need to access these files through the internet. Now, when we are talking about cloud computing, from this particular definition, you'll see cloud computing is the delivery of computing services over the internet. I always tell people, most times you go for an interview and they ask you questions like this. When you look at these definitions, right, or probably somebody is asking you about cloud computing, I always tell people generally, one word you should not miss is that word there, over the internet, right? Because we know everybody is saying cloud, but these files that we're talking about, this storage and all of it, all of what we're talking about is residing in someone else's computer. And that's the truth. And for us to access it, we need to access it through the internet. And if you look at the second part, it says enabling fast innovation, flexible resources, and economics of scale. Now, what I explained and this definition I'm telling you right now, the first part of what I explain is just basically for you as a user. Like, oh, storage. I have this memory card. I'm getting iCloud. I'm getting OneDrive. I'm sharing my files. But now think about the big companies. Imagine companies with over 1,000 employees. How do they manage their data? Imagine companies that have like 10,000 employees. Who is going to be managing all of these resources, right? Now, for most of these companies, they were once using drives, like hard drives. They have racks, they had storage, and they kept all of their informations there. They have engineers that were on site managing all of these resources, managing their servers and all of this. But right now, we have most of these big companies, even smaller companies, moving to the cloud, which is what we are going to see as we are going further in the whole stuff. But the whole concept and the whole idea is if we are looking at cloud computing, we should look at it from our day-to-day activities, what we are doing, how we are watching Netflix now. We sit at home, connect to the internet, and then we select movies and we're watching movies that are stored in the cloud. You can access it over the web. For most of us that are probably web developers, you will realize that you can build your website and only you can be viewing the website on your laptop without the internet because you have the code and everything running on your laptop. But then when you want people to access your website, right, you have to push it to the cloud. That's where the DevOps guys will come in. Now, we have some people that are probably just hearing what I'm saying for the first time, and they're just hearing about the cloud, right? When you keep understanding this basic and then you keep learning, you will start choosing what you want to do. You'll probably say, hey, I want to be a DevOps. I want to manage infrastructure and all of that. But as we go, we'll get to see more. But right now, if you look at this slide, you will see the computing services we have here. We have compute, we have networking, and then we have storage. I know I use storage because that's one of the most common resource that we can see with everyday user phone. You have storage in it. I know network is there, right? But most people they'll just say, "Oh, I have a SIM card." That's where their knowledge of network gets to. But then storage, I know a lot of people they get to understand, oh, storage, right? So those are some of the resources that we can, computing services that can be delivered over the internet. Now let's go to the next slide. So this next slide, basically, this is when we're talking about the different types of cloud, right? We have the cloud computing as itself, but then when we're talking about cloud computing, we have the types of cloud, right? And when we're talking about types of cloud, before I go into types of cloud, I would want to actually do something. I want to break it down for us before I go into types of cloud. Now, when I want to explain types of cloud, I always try to just use something very simple. And one of the simplest thing I can always use to explain is when I'm talking of transportation. I think transportation is like one of the easiest way I can use. And I earlier said types of cloud. Now, just in case you're hearing me saying types of cloud, and tomorrow you're sitting somewhere in an interview and someone is saying, "Oh, do you know about cloud computing?" And you say, "Yeah, from I know cloud computing is this," and then the person is telling you, "Do you know about the deployment model?" And you'll be like, "This guy, he did a presentation. He never spoke about the deployment model." So if they're telling you about deployment model, you don't need to stress about it. It's the same thing as types of cloud. So you might hear some people saying the deployment model, and you might hear some people ask you, what are the types of cloud? But before I start explaining what the types of clouds are, let's just come back to what we know, what we see, and what we use. Now, have you ever lived in an estate, right? Most times, if you live in an estate, there's no way you're going to see public transport. You're probably going to be using your car. And think about when you're using your car. For people that are in countries where the public transport are as good as you using your car, you see, most people they'll just rather say, "Oh, I'm using the public bus to go to where I want to go to instead of using my car." But then when we are looking at our car, looking at the public transport, you would notice that if I have my car, right, and I have to go to work using my car, I am the one that would wake up and take that car to the gas station and fill the gas for the car. I'm the one that is going to pay for the insurance. I'm the one that is probably going to pay for roadworthiness, everything that I need, servicing of that car. I will take care of that car. But if I'm paying for all of this, when I'm going to work, I can just choose to take my AirPods, throw it under my chair, carry my laptop, fling it behind the back of my car. Like, it's my car, right? I can do anything I want to do, anyhow I want to use it. But the cost of running that car, using that car, I would be liable for all of it. On the other hand, we have the bus. I can choose to wake up and, run to the bus stop. I'll wait for the bus. Now, if I have my private car, I would not be waiting for the bus and say, "Oh, when is the next bus coming? Oh, I missed my bus." I would not be doing all of that. I would just go, enter my car and move. But for the public transport, I will have to get to the bus stop. And when I get to the bus stop, what am I looking for? I'm waiting for the bus. I'll jump into the bus. I cannot fling my laptop on the back seat while I'm sitting at the front. Somebody will probably pick it or somebody might have actually paid for that seat, right? But when the boss is going and there's an issue with the boss, right? I can choose to just come down and say, oh, this boss is going to delay me. I'll leave the driver and just find my way because I'm not responsible for the gas filling of that bus, the servicing. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just paying for the service of that bus to take me from where I'm going to where I'm probably from where I'm in to where I'm going. But if my personal car breaks down on the road, I have to stand there from the country where I am. Probably I would have my mechanic number and I'll be calling him like, hey, what do I touch in this car? Now you see that when I'm dealing with my private car, I have like a whole lot of stuff that I am responsible for. Now there's something else that somebody will say, what of Uber? Now we have Uber. We have some people, I think in the US probably have Ride, Bolt, and all of that. Now I can choose to order Uber. Now when I order Uber, you will see that Uber is probably sitting between the private and the public. Now, why is it sitting there? It's because the Uber would actually come to my house, wait for me, and I will walk down to the Uber. I'm not responsible for like a whole lot of stuff, but I'm paying more, right? And I can't fling my stuffs anyhow, but then I can, enjoy that comfort of me having like a private car, but then I'm not the owner of the car. Now I just explained transportation, but that's what we know. Now let's come back to the reason why we are here. The reason why we are here is because of cloud computing. Now look at the types of cloud computing. When we look at the types of cloud computing from my screen or the deployment model, you will see that one of it is the private cloud. If you look at the bullet points on my screen, you're going to see organization creates a cloud environment in their data center. Now, you as an organization, right? You can actually have your own private cloud. That means you have the data center, the resources, you're paying for the building, right? The electricity bill is coming to you. The what do they call it? The security actually. You have security guarding the building. Like you have all of that. That cloud environment is yours. We have environment and we have organizations that have private clouds. Organizations are responsible for operating the services they provide. That means any services you're running on that's your data center, you're the one that is responsible for it. Does not provide access to users outside of the organization. You're definitely not going to be using your private cars to be picking people on the road when you're going to work. Although some people do it, but that's not why you have your private car. But the point there is that if you look at your private car, you look at this private cloud, it's just basically that. I'm just trying to paint what it looks like to run a private cloud. People have private cloud, they have their storage, they have their network, they have their servers, everything in their organization. All of their resources, they build it there. Now, for most of you that you're probably just hearing about data centers, right? We have what we call servers, we have racks. You can probably just Google them. You will see images of it. Like they have to buy all those stuffs. And when they're buying all those stuffs, let's just come down to like the basic stuffs, like let's say information about employees or giving access to employees to access storage and data that they have to manage it within their data center. Now, that is exactly what the private cloud is all about. And if you look at the three bullet points, you will see it's actually explaining just basically what I am also trying to say. You're responsible for operating the services and all of that. And external users don't just come in and say, hey, they are using your cloud service. Another organization would not just say, hey, I want to use your cloud um, service. No, it's just for that organization. So that's just one. The second one is what we call the public cloud. Now, if you look at the public cloud, you will see owned by cloud services or hosting providers. Now, we have companies that provide cloud services, and Microsoft is one of them. We have Amazon, that's the AWS. We have Google as well. We have Alibaba. there are a lot of other public clouds. Now, what is happening here? You see the second bullet point is saying provides resources and services to multiple organizations and users. That means organizations can actually go and pay for these cloud services from the cloud service providers. That means you can have an organization and then you say, oh, I want to use cloud services. I want to enjoy the benefits of the cloud, and I cannot set up a private cloud. I need to, use all of these services. You just go set up an account, get a subscription depending on how they run it, and then pay for what you use, which is some of the things we'll see as we are going forward. Then, if you look at the last part, it say access via that's like through a secured network connection, typically over the internet. You can see this internet is coming back again. We spoke about it when I was defining cloud computing, and then it is coming back because that's the truth. If I am working for my organization and I'm helping them manage their infrastructure on the cloud, if I don't have internet, I can't actually access the portal where I can, build all of those stuffs, move all of those files and all of the other stuffs. I need to access it through the internet. So that's why you're seeing that last bullet point. So the next is the hybrid cloud. And remember, the public cloud, if you connect it to the public transportation I was talking about, that's just basically what it is. Now, you're not going to be thinking about how Microsoft is running their server. You're not going to be telling Microsoft that, hey, the security, you're not concerned about all of that. You're just paying for what you're using, and Microsoft will handle all of that. So now this is the hybrid cloud. Now, if you see what the hybrid cloud basically is doing, it is combining the public and private cloud. Now, most times people ask, why do you want to use both? There's what we call compliance. We have standards within organization. There are some information that or documents that are very strict to some laws that they don't really want to take those information outside of their organization. So basically what they do is those information are stored in their own private cloud, and then they have other informations that they can, store in the cloud. So most organizations, they try to, use both the public and also the private cloud. And what may always kind of bring used to represent this most times, I would say, is just like you using the Uber, where it's public and then you're still having that private benefit. So that's where the Uber comes in. So when we're talking about types of cloud, this is the main three you'll be hearing about. If you do your research, you're going to hear about the community cloud, where we have organizations that have like similar goals using the same cloud infrastructure. And most times this is the government organizations, educations, law firms, and stuff like that. So, but I don't have that here. But just in case you see it, just know, hey, there's something like that. You'll still see people talking about multi-cloud, where people use different cloud providers. So I don't have that in any of this slide, but I'm just saying that just in case you're here and then you just want to do further research and you're seeing stuff like that. Yes, we have them. Now, this slide is basically just showing us comparison between the public, the private, and then the hybrid clouds. Now, if you look at the public cloud, you're going to see we have no capital expenditure to scale up, right? Now, we are still going to look at this when I'm talking about CapEx and the rest of it, right? We have applications can be quickly provisioned and deprovisioned. We also have organization pay only for what they use. Now, if you're looking at that first one, which is no capital expenditure, if you look at the private cloud, you will see hardware must be purchased for startup and maintenance. What that simply means, if I want to create my own private cloud, there's what I'll be thinking, right? I'll probably be thinking, what is my workload? This server that I'm buying, the processor, would it be able to carry everything I need? Like I have to be making all of those plans. And the reason I'm making all of those plans is so I don't buy something that is an overkill or something that doesn't just meet the requirement. Now, once I'm doing all of this, what is basically happening is, I need to also have the money when when I am planning to set up this private cloud. That's what this is actually saying. But for the public cloud, I don't need to go through all of that. I just need to go log into the portal, get a subscription. If I probably let me just use a virtual machine. If I spin up a virtual machine and I look at it, I say, okay, I think the memory is not enough. Okay, I can add more. Or I need something. I can just easily change it. But I can't do that to the private cloud. For hybrid cloud, we have provides the most flexibility. Then if you look at next, that's the next where we have application can be quickly provisioned and the provision. If we move to the private cloud, you'll see organization have complete control over resources and security. So basically, the resources you have, the security, both the network security, the infrastructure security, and the physical security, you're the one that have complete control over it. Now, for hybrid cloud, you will see organization determine where to run their applications because you're using both. You can choose to say, hey, let me put this in the cloud, or um, let me put this in the public cloud, or let me just use this in our private cloud. So the last part where we have organization pay only for what they use. That means if I build a machine that just needs to carry a particular workload, I'll just pay for that. And if the workload is decreasing, I can just reduce it and I'm not paying more. But if you go and buy a server that's probably, let me say, you need to run 10 virtual machines on it, and eventually you're not running up to, excuse me, you're not running up to 10 virtual machines, you can't say, hey, I'm going to return the server and get a lower one, then bring it back. You're just going to spend the same amount for 10 virtual machines. So that's what this last part is saying. And if you look at the one under the private cloud, you see organizations are responsible for hardware maintenance and updates. Like you buy a hardware today, and for those of us that use laptop, remember the laptop you're using in 2018 is probably not doing a lot of stuff for you right now. If you try to do some stuff, you can't do it. You either need to start thinking of getting a new one so that you can actually use recent programs and all of that. So when you're also dealing with private cloud, just like you're purchasing your servers and the rest of it, you have to upgrade them. The maintenance, you are responsible for the maintenance. All of that is on your side. That's basically what this part is saying. And for the hybrid cloud, we have organization control, security, compliance, or legal requirements. Yeah, basically you can say, oh, for legal requirements, these files or these informations, they need to be on our private cloud. For this one, yeah, we can put it here and all of that. So this is just a comparison between the types of cloud. And remember, once we are talking about the types of cloud, we can also call it the deployment model. So let's move over to what we have next so I can meet up with the time. So now we have what we call capital expenditure, which I spoke about earlier. CapEx, you probably hear CapEx, and then we have the operational expenditure, which is OpEx. So for most of you that probably wants to, put in more energy after this, because most times some people they just join event just to, get the general knowledge. But some people when they join events like this, they've already made up their mind that this is just the start and I'm going to see what the end look like. That means they'll just pursue everything they can pursue. And I've come across a lot of people like that. So why I'm saying that is for those of you that probably want to, keep pursuing till you get to the end, you might have the opportunity to amend tiles for Azure. That's the 8900. Questions like this do come out where you will see questions about CapEx and OpEx where you just need to pick from the given answers, which is correct. So when we're talking about capital expenditure, right, you'll see basically what that is saying, the upfront spending of money on physical infrastructure. So this CapEx is just like me talking about the private cloud. You're trying to set up the private cloud. You have to actually spend you need that upfront amount to pay for all of those resources before setting it up. You need to say, oh, I'm renting a building, and you need money to rent the building. You need to say, oh, this room is for the server. You need that room to be available and all of that. So that's what CapEx is saying. And if you look at the last part, the cost from CapEx have a value that reduces over time. Yes, because if you probably pay for a server today, over time, let me just use what we know. If your laptop that you got about, let me use myself. The laptop I got $600 some years ago. If I want to sell it now, I doubt anybody would want to give me $200 for that laptop because the value over the year has gone down. So that's exactly what happens when we are running with capital expenditure. But on the other hand, where we have the operational expenditure, you'll see that you spend on products and services as needed. That's pay as you go. That means I need storage. I'll just pay for the storage, use it. And if I don't want to use it anymore, I'm done. I'm not going to keep paying for what I'm not using. Most times I can choose to say, hey, I want to just test something and I'm spinning up a virtual machine. I know I've been talking about virtual machine. I don't like using terms that people do not really um, understand because I believe like majority of the people here are beginners. So basically, let me just use the basic term. Virtual machines are like me building a computer in the cloud, which is something you will get to know as you're moving forward. So what I'm trying to explain is I can actually just go build a computer in the cloud just to test the resources, a particular resource or workload. And if I test it and I'm okay with it or I'm not okay with it, I can just delete it immediately. But I can't go and pay for that server and say, hey, I just want to test something. When I'm done, I'll return it. Once you open the box, this thing is, in fact, you need to even have money for it and all of that. So all of that, you can't do that with you can do all of this when you're using the operational expenditure where you can just, pay for what you need and you get billed immediately. Yeah. When you start using the cloud, you would start seeing credits. You're paying for subscription, you're getting credits. As you're using it, your credit is reading, you see your credits going down, and then you start learning how to shut down what you don't need. You start learning how to manage your credits and all of that because you get billed immediately and you need to know how to manage all of that. And that is also still part of the skill you would learn when you're dealing with cloud computing. Now, the next thing is consumption-based model. So we have cloud service providers operate on a consumption-based model, which means that end user only pay for the resources that they use, right? So you're paying for what you use. This is a better cost prediction. I know what it looks like, I know the cost estimate I'll get if I build a particular machine or storage in the cloud. Like I can predict how much I'll be charged, right? Prices for individual resources and services are provided. You can see it, right? Then billing is based on actual usage. So what you use is what you're going to pay for when you're using the cloud. Now, the benefits of cloud computing. Now, I know I've been saying a lot, cloud, cloud, cloud. Why do we use the cloud? That's where the benefit comes in. Now, if we're looking at the benefits of cloud, you would see the first is high availability. From the example I gave, right, where I said you have a memory card, you're moving your files, you have a movie, and all of that. Now, how easy is it for you to just, tell your friend, hey, take this link and view the picture that I have. You can see it's highly available. I'm not saying, oh, my phone just got missing. Someone stole my phone. All my pictures are gone. Where are my pictures? I don't even think about that. I know back then, right, from where I come, right? I'm from Nigeria, right? Most people, when they lost their phone, they'll be, it's not the phone that is paying me, it's the SIM card. But we always laugh. We say it's the phone that is actually paying you. So, but right now, if I probably lose my phone, it's the phone that will be paying me. Like, I'll be feeling pains for the phone. Paining me is not like, it's just like the slang we always use. So, but I'll feel the pain for the phone. But then I'm not really feeling any pain for the files I have there because I back up my files. And when I'm backing them up, I'm not backing them into any physical memory or storage. I'm backing them up to the cloud. So if I just lose my phone, I'm just going to feel vexed for the amount I spent, but then I can just get a new phone and everything is back. My contacts, my images, everything is back. Now, this is just for me as a user, right? Now, think about the big companies. They have files, they have stuffs, they have people working remotely, and everybody needs to access these files. People needs to access document. People needs to, use a particular software, and everybody can access it like on the go. So that's where the cloud comes in, highly available. Then we also have scalability. Now, when we are talking about scalability, one thing you would hear people talking about when it comes to scalability, you'll be hearing about scale up, which is vertical. Something that is going up is vertical. Then when you hear scale down, it's not really like down, down, but they call it horizontal scaling. But what's basically happening is if I build a resource in the cloud, or I probably build a virtual machine, example, I just love using that. The virtual machine is probably maybe I'm building a computer that have RAM, hard drives, and all of that. And I'm working with that computer, and the workload is just too much for the computer. I can choose to increase the RAM. I can choose to say, hey, I'm changing the CPU, I'm increasing the CPU and all of that. So that's what scalability is all about. But when I'm increasing those little resources, what I am actually doing at that point in time is just what we call the vertical scale up. But then if I want to add more virtual machines to handle my workload, that's when I'm doing the horizontal scale up. But the whole point of scalability is just how I can easily add more resources so I can handle my workload. We have predictability. Basically, it's just about the cost I spoke about. I know exactly what I want to use. I know the exact cost of what I'll be spending. I can actually predict all of that. Then we have governance. Governance basically is for most people here, and probably you already know, some countries, they do not accept their information to be, saved in a different location. The same thing with the cloud, right? We have like legal laws, we have standards. In the cloud, you can actually control where your resources are stored. If you keep going on, for those of you that will keep pushing, we have what we call regions. You can choose to, deal with informations, resources within a specific region. You don't allow them to go to another region. We have all of that under governance in the cloud. We have elasticity. So basically, I know I spoke about scalability, how we can, you know, add all of these stuffs, like add resources to handle our workload. But when we're looking at elasticity, what that is actually telling us is how fast, or the changes we are making, how do we really adapt to it like real quick? Like, when we are making all these changes, it will just automatically adjust, right? That's where this is actually coming in. Then we have reliability. Yes, it is reliable. You, I used an example of me losing my stuffs, and then I'm just going back to get them back like real quick. And apart from just getting them back and all of that, you can actually say that, hey, I need to get this thing at a particular time, and you're getting it at that particular time. We also have security. It's very secure. You can actually secure your data there. For some people here, trust me, you might end up going to the security part. And while we're talking about the cloud, I know most people, they always say, hey, I want to do cybersecurity. You would start seeing how cybersecurity is also getting connected with the cloud. You would see how we have identities in the cloud and you need to secure those identities and all of that. You would see a lot more about security when we come to the cloud. And apart from you securing all of these, the public cloud, we also have the cloud providers also providing securities to help you secure your data that you have in the cloud as well. Then when we look at the last part where we have manageability, it is actually easy to manage. You can deploy stuffs like real quick. You can manage them real quick. You can connect to the portal, build what you want like easily and all of that. Those are all of the items you're seeing here. Those are the benefits of the cloud. So the next part I would move to is what we call the cloud services type. Now, this is something you would also hear people talking about. So I know some people would probably say, hey, cloud services types is what I know. You would probably hear people say service model. So if they ask you what are the service model for the cloud, just know it's the same thing they are referring to. So for the service model or the cloud service types, we have different types. Now, this is just what I need to describe, but we have the infrastructure as a service, we have the platform as a service, we have the software as a service. Those are the three types that we have. There's something you would probably hear people talking about is the serverless. I will probably talk about that when I get to PaaS, which is platform as a service. Now, each of these services, you see they have something in brackets, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. That's probably what you'll be hearing most people saying. You would hardly hear some people saying infrastructure as a service when you're probably talking to people that are maybe DevOps, cloud engineers, and the rest of the infrastructure engineers. You will see them using most of these terms. So you can as well start getting familiar with that. Now let's go here. So the next part here we have is the infrastructure as a service. Now, let's look at what this is saying. They say build pay-as-you-go IT infrastructure by renting servers, virtual machines, storage, network, and operating systems from a cloud provider. So if you look at these, basically, we are building infrastructures like servers. So the servers, the storage, the network, all of them, they fall under the infrastructure. And when we are dealing with cloud computing, if you're dealing with infrastructure as a service, you have a lot of responsibilities that you will be handling when we are talking about the services. Because for other services, you're going to still, build or do stuff, but you're not going to be managing most stuffs the way you will be managing when you're dealing with infrastructures. And basically, I've been using virtual machines, right? And that's one of the infrastructure that you can actually build in the cloud. You can build storage, you can build networks, and these whole stuffs, they fall under the infrastructure as a service. So if you're dealing with infrastructure, these are the items you'll be dealing with as an infrastructure engineer. We have platform as a service. So for platform as a service, you would see the definition is saying provides an environment for building, testing, and deploying software applications without focusing on managing the underlying infrastructure. Now, we spoke about infrastructure where you're dealing with virtual machines, you're dealing with servers and storage. But when you're dealing with platform as a service, you're probably building your applications. And then when you're building this application, you're probably hosting them in the cloud. But while you're hosting these applications in the cloud or you're deploying your softwares in the cloud, you're not thinking of the operating system patching and all of that. the cloud service provider is going to be helping you handle all of that. You're not thinking about all of those underlying infrastructures that would actually enable your software to run, but you're just focusing on your own software that you're building, the testing and all of that. That's what you're just focusing on. And when you're also talking about serverless, it's almost just the same thing as PaaS. They have like similarities because serverless, you're not thinking about the servers, you're just deploying your resources like very quick. Although serverless I would say, is more faster when you're deploying those services. Now, I think there was somewhere I read something. They gave an example of both, right? And the best example I got was you're in your house, you need to use water. You go to the tap, you just move it, you turn the tap and you get water. And once you're done, you turn it off. But then you can still be in your house and you still want to use water. And then they're bringing the water through a dispenser. So you have to get the dispenser, put it in the dispensing machine. Somebody's bringing it and all of that, all of those process. And eventually you will still get the water. But the easiest way to get the water is the tap. And that's just basically what serverless is. You're still getting water, right, from the dispenser. You're getting water from the tap, but the tap is actually faster. You're just switching it off and on. But the dispenser, you have to go through different process of getting the container into your house, taking it down. When it is done, you remove it and all of that. So those are just some little things you can do your own personal research and just check about it. So why I'm mentioning that is because it's not on this slide, but then you would hear people talking about serverless. So the last part is software as a service. Now, most people that will probably be doing DevOps, they will find themselves around here. Like most of the people that are also going to be managing applications, software testing, and all of that, you will see yourself walking around this particular part. Me, right now, this is where I'm probably dealing with a lot of stuff. I still walk around here most of the time, but most of my jobs, my day-to-day activity sits here and this last part. So this last part is software as a service. And most people would sit here comfortable and they'll be happy about it. So now what is software as a service? Users connect to and use cloud-based apps over the internet. For example, Microsoft Office 365, emails, calendars. Now, the biggest part of this software as a service for people that I know, one of the biggest role I know most of them workers is Microsoft 365 engineer, administrator, support engineers. They are actually sitting at this particular position. You probably must have heard about Salesforce and a lot of others, right? This is where they sit. Now, basically, what is this? You pay for an application, and when you pay for this software, you're just paying for the software based on subscription. Whatsoever is happening with the code that is used, the server, it has nothing to do with you. You are not involved with any of those. Your responsibility is just for you to pay for your license and then use all the functionality of the software. For Microsoft 365, people go subscribe for Microsoft 365, and the next thing is they can use Office, um, Word documents, they can use Excel, but that's just like a little part. We have emails. People configure emails where you can send emails. We also have Teams, right? You can use Teams, make calls to your mobile phone. We have OneDrive, we have SharePoint, all of that, they are under M365. And M365 is a software as a service where you just pay for the license and you're using all of these productivity tools. And while you're using all of these, you are not interested in software updates, server, nothing. You're not interested in any of that. You're just enjoying the benefits of the software. And this is also one of the services that we get when we are using the cloud. Now, this is the last, and this part here is talking about shared responsibility model. So what this document is just trying to show you, if you look at the down part here, you will see that this is actually a Microsoft document, right? So this is Microsoft, and this is you as the customer, and this is like shared. That means you have responsibility, and Microsoft have, you are sharing that responsibility. Now, if you look at this now, yeah, you'll see Microsoft, 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 and Microsoft is stopping here. Do you see what is happening? At this other part, you're the one that will be handling all of this. And you can see this is SaaS, which is software as a service. So this is basically you as the customer, you're the one responsible for your information and data, your mobile, your devices, your account identities, identity and directory infrastructure. You and Microsoft will be sharing that responsibility. So if you look at PaaS, you will see that PaaS is going down a bit lower. You're sharing more responsibilities with Microsoft until you get to this part. Then from the operating system down, Microsoft will be is they have full responsibility for that. Now, if you look at IaaS, you'll see IaaS got to this place. You're not sharing any responsibilities with Microsoft. The physical host, that's what Microsoft is taking care of. The physical network is Microsoft. The physical data center is Microsoft. But the operating system, the network controls application up to the information and data, you're the one that is responsible for it. So you can see that IaaS, which is infrastructure, there's a lot you will be looking at. Now, when we go to the on-prem is just basically you having your data center in your environment. It has nothing to do with Microsoft. It is you that will handle everything. You're the one that would pay for the data center, pay for the security, pay for the physical network. Everything is your responsibility. So that's exactly what this is saying. You might as well want to take the exams. You might see something like this. Who is going to be, having the responsibility? Who is going to be responsible for the physical host when we are talking about on-prem? Microsoft or you as the customer? You already know the answer by now. So I'll move to the last, and the last is basically just talking about cloud service comparison. So we have IaaS, the most flexible cloud service. PaaS, focus on application deployment. So the reason you're saying IaaS as the most flexible is because you know the network, you're the one building your network. You can build it to whatsoever you want. You're picking your operating system, setting it up the way you want, storage and all of that. It's more flexible. Then SaaS, right? We have here as you go pricing model. So you're just paying and you're using the software. You're not really interested in what is happening underneath. Then we have you configure and manage the hardware for your application. So I probably want to host an application on a server, right? I am dealing with IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service. I can choose to build the virtual machine that I want to run the application on the way I want it, and then set up that particular application on that virtual machine. So the hardware, you're the one building it yourself, like you're configuring it yourself. Then we also have platform management is handled by the cloud provider. So you don't have to think about the servers. It's the cloud provider that will be dealing with that. For SaaS, we have users pay for the software they use on a subscription model. That's exactly what I said earlier. You're paying for your subscription. And when you pay for your subscription, you have access to all the features of that software. And once I go here, this is the last part of the training. So I think I was able to keep to the time, and I hope everybody's still hearing me because I don't know if I have been here speaking to myself because I can't see anything. I'm just using one screen. So this is the end of today's introduction to cloud computing. And at this point, I think I'll be giving the mic over to Deji. And Deji, I
Yeah.
don't know if you can hear me at this
Thank
point.
you. Thank you. I could hear you. Thank you so much
Okay.
for that, Solomon. So yeah. So before we kind of get the feedback, I really want to get the feedback. So if you let's see if you really enjoy this and you got something out of this introduction. So can you please put 5 on the chart, 5 for Solomon? So because I want to also know if we are going to do a follow-on session, right? And I know she is mentioning, yeah, for those one that just come in there. Okay, thank you so much. If you think, okay, this has been really, really useful to you, it's something that, yeah, I think I could also do as well. You want to, yeah, it opens your eyes to cloud computing. So that is good. So quickly, right? So if you enjoyed it and you captured, I want to ask one question anyway. So what you said, if to see that if someone is following, what is CapEx, right? So quickly, if you want to type that, let's see who is following. I know you mentioned that there are a lot of terminologies that you mentioned. What is CapEx? Okay, all right, cool, all right, brilliant. That's brilliant. So okay. All right. So it seems that people are not sleeping. Solomon, as a tutor that you mentioned, you want to be sure that you did not speak to a avatar or icon. So they are as you can see, they are really really following you. Thank you so much for it anyway. And to be honest, this is a program that you will have paid thousands to enter. But yeah, thanks to Solomon for offering to do this. And we are going to do follow-on ones anyway. That will not be maybe in the next few weeks or thereabouts, depending on Solomon availability anyway. So there's some question that's coming up on the chat. So if you have any question, you can for the few minutes that we have, you can raise your hand, to ask those questions. And maybe some questions will be, okay, thank you, Solomon. Okay, what if I want to make a transition to a cloud person? What are the roles that you can do as a cloud professional? Well, how does it work? It could be as simple as you said you work. What is the day-to-day activities? I'm not sure that is something that we can answer now or maybe later. So, but let's take some questions anyway. So yeah, and if you have a question, you can raise your hand. There's one question on the chat, which is what is virtual machine? You kept saying virtual machine in your presentation. What is a virtual machine? Yeah, I think that's a VM, right?
Okay. Yeah. So I think I kept mentioning that, and I remember I said those are some terminologies I try to avoid. So what basically is a virtual machine? You have like, okay, let's just use the word virtual, right? Virtual is basically something that is not real. So we have like physical computers that you can see, you can touch, but then we can actually create computers that you cannot see, you cannot feel, you cannot touch, but then they have all the specifications of the a physical computer. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So I can actually go to the cloud, build a computer, and when I'm building the computer, I'll give it memory. I'm going to give it um I'm going to give it hard drive, give it everything. And when I'm giving it all of these resources, I'm actually getting these resources from a host computer, which is a physical computer. So I don't know if that explains it, but that's just basically what a virtual machine does. I'm creating a machine, I'm creating a computer, and I'm getting the resources for this computer from a physical computer. But this computer I'm creating is not a physical computer that you can see, feel, and touch. So that's exactly what a virtual machine is. So, but when you probably keep going in, you would, get to see more about it.
Okay.
Yes, like RDP. Somebody said like RDP, exactly,
Yeah.
something like that. But RDP can actually still be a physical computer. You can actually remote into a physical computer. But when you're using a virtual machine, you would always like remotely connect to it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Solomon, for that. I know before cloud computing, there was VM anyway. So what you have that was close to cloud computing was a VM that you improvise, right, as you go along. And when you provision that VM, then it kind of has got the image of a computer, and you can kind of discard it as you if you don't need it again. You can spring it up
Yes.
quickly and you can shut it down and everything. But yeah, so thank you so much, yeah, for that. So yeah, so I think you got yeah. So you said what's the relevance of a virtual machine? Why do you use
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
So just one simple explanation for that is I can have a computer now, and my computer is running like 128 gig RAM, and I have like 1 TB of disk space. And then I want to use Linux operating system to test something. I can actually just build a virtual computer, take some of the RAM from my physical computer, and once I take some of the RAM from my physical computer, I would assign it to my virtual computer, and I can as well take some of the storage, assign it to my to my virtual computer. And once I do all of that, I can test what I want to test on that Linux environment, which is on my virtual machine. And once I'm done, I can shut it down. But for some organization, it's not just for testing purpose. They can use build a lot of virtual machines to manage their servers and other infrastructures. So that's just basically what you can use the virtual machine for.
All right.
Sorry,
So
I'm getting I just need to end the call. Just give me a minute.
okay, all right, no problem. So I think, yeah, even that is kind of the end anyway. So yeah, Adegboyega also kind of responded to that question. Is a replica of computer inside a physical computer. So, yeah, that's that. So yeah, so thank you so much. If you have any questions, so you can raise your hand. Yeah, we see Solomon, and I'm also able to answer your questions, or you can put it on the chat anyway. But if you still want to know more about us anyway, this was done by Blue Sky Citadel anyway. So, and you can follow us on the link I shared right now. So, and we do all this training periodically as well. We have an internship going on presently right now. If you want to be part of that in different fields, so we are happy to have you, right? So, we just kind of try to empower a lot of people in that field anyway. So that's something that we do periodically. So if you have any questions about us, or you can also chat on any of our social media platform if you are so. But if you still have any question about cloud computing, right, this is just introductory section to expose us to what is cloud computing and how does it work anyway. And you can see, I like how Solomon started by looking into what we know before, looking into even the era of CD, the era of even you uploading your camera and also using your physical drive onto how everything is now moved into where you have to use OneDrive or uh, another drive online anyway. And then we move into, yeah, the physical and also the cloud computing part anyway. So yeah, so if you miss any part of this week or of this session, I'm going to post the YouTube link as well so that you can actually look into that. Yeah. And yeah. So okay. Yeah. So you can post the recording. I think they're asking me about the recording. So I'm going to post the okay. No, you
So
can
just to
continue.
add,
Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
yeah. So I don't know. I think somebody asked the question like, what do you do as a cloud engineer? So I think I skipped answering the question, but I can just give like a little background of what they should expect, right? So for when we're talking about cloud computing, I always tell people it's not like people cannot learn this on their own. Like you can actually learn this on your own, but the field is actually broad. there's a lot you can do with cloud computing. So let me start from the list where we have like support engineers. Now, one of the largest support engineers we have right now in the world is from Microsoft. And basically, what are these guys doing? They are supporting the Microsoft 365. They are probably also supporting infrastructure. They are supporting power services. That's what they are doing. And how are they doing that? Is because they understand how these cloud services work. They understand the software as a service. They understand the software itself that Microsoft have, and they help people resolve their issue. So we have those people as support engineers. We also have people that are DevOps engineer. So most of these people, they deploy your applications, your code that you're writing, they deploy them to the cloud. We have people working as DevOps engineers. We have other people working as solution architects, like they are there designing what your infrastructure will look like on the cloud. They are planning it, and then they build all of this whole stuff. And we still have people doing security, cloud security. There are people trying to manage your data, trying to make sure that your data compliance based on the location you're in, trying to manage your users so that, because even as we are talking about the whole cloud services, we have people that are out there, they are trying to access resources in the cloud that is for an organization they are not part of. Even within your organization, we have people that they are not meant to see a particular data, and you need someone to control who can see that data. For example, we have payrolls. Some companies don't want everybody to see the payroll. How do we control all of these? So we have cloud security. We have a lot of stuff you can, get from being a cloud engineer, not just even a cloud engineer. So the word cloud engineer is actually just broad, right? But there are a lot of other stuffs you can get your hands into. Microsoft alone, that's M365 I mentioned alone. I can break down a lot of roles you can get in just M365. If you go on LinkedIn, check for SharePoint engineer, check for identity, entry ID engineer, check for AVD engineers. Like there are a lot in just Microsoft that you can find. So the skills you can learn is a lot, but when you're trying to begin, you just have to narrow it down to exactly what you want.
Thank you so much, Solomon. I know some people are already fired up right now because you've mentioned a lot of roles within cloud anyway, cloud computing. So even support is so broad, and the fact cloud computing have changed everything, right? So you can actually get your niche from that, even into SharePoint as well. Yeah, M365 is is a beast. So, sorry to use that word. There's a lot in there right now. Yeah, it's a discipline on its own anyway. So yeah. Yeah. I think another thing that you mentioned is the PaaS, the IaaS, the SaaS. To be honest, in itself, that is another field entirely as well. Anyway, so which I think anyone can get into. And some of the tools that we use on this platform, which is Dynamics 365, is a SaaS application as well, and of course from Microsoft. Yeah. So, okay. And there's some other questions on the chat, Solomon, if you don't mind. Someone said, after this session, what will be the next step gaining more knowledge, right? So do you want to tell us next time I speak to you, what will be the plan? Where do we want to go
Okay,
from there?
okay, for me, right? Um, After this session, what do you look at? So for me, how I always go is I always tell people there are two ways. I always help people to get into the cloud very fast. It's not like the other ones you cannot get in through there, but one of the fastest way is I try to let them understand the infrastructure part of the cloud, understanding the network, understanding storage, understanding how to build servers, VPN, identity. So by the time I explain all of that, with that mindset, you can easily start learning, and you can start actually seeing like a path Then the second part I always push people towards is M365. So M365, I know the large community I have, most of them they went through M365 instead of the Azure infrastructure. So the reason M365 is easy, it's not like I'm not saying it's like hard, but I don't like saying it's just easy. So you don't just feel, hey, I'll just go and I'm done. But why I say that part is fast is because you don't really, most people when they want to do stuff about tech, they are running away from coding. That's once they just say, "Are you going to code?" If you say yes, they'll tell you, sorry, my head doesn't go with coding. So I always tell them, like, even when you're coming into M365, you don't need to come in as a programmer or anything. You can easily just catch up. And if at all you now want to make progress, like you want to improve on your skill, you just need to learn a little bit of scripting. And I tell people like the scripting is not like it's not a difficult stuff. As long as you understand English, you should be able to catch up with scripting. And it's like, hey, this is like, this is the value for this. Like, it's very straightforward. And most of the basic commands is just like Microsoft Graph, PowerShells. You can easily learn all of that. So if you want to also look for a role, you can actually move towards the M365. Like, it's very easy. And I always tell people, go to LinkedIn, go to Indeed, check off these roles I'm telling you about, check the pay. You see that the pay is not like the basic pay that you see for other roles. Like they're actually very high for most of these pays. So the next thing you should be looking into is from the conclusion is look at probably becoming an infrastructure engineer in the cloud, look at becoming M365 engineer. And for those that want to probably become DevOps engineer, it's still open to you. You can as well pursue that career also. But I just came in from the easiest part that you can go with. But depending on how much you put, that's probably how easy it's going to be for you when you're looking at it. And I see another question talking about business analyst. For business analysts, right? I tell people right now, the way the cloud is, you will see that in every role you're probably doing, somehow the cloud is involved. I have a friend that was into all this medical stuff, so research and all of that, and the person transitioned into the cloud. Now, the idea is the person is actually still working. I think the person is somehow med tech right now because most of the stuff you're doing within your field, you will still see somehow there's someone managing it in the cloud. Like if you look at your business analysts that you're dealing with right now, if you go to M365, we have what we call Power BI, Power Automate, we have Power Apps. Like most of those stuffs, you can actually use the knowledge of what you have in as a business analyst and use these tools to automate them, add more features, make your work easy. And then you will just see that that blend is coming in. And by the time you're looking for a new role, you're probably on another level. Like you're not just coming as, hey, I'm a business analyst. You're now putting more armors in your arsenal. Like, hey, this is this. So the cloud somehow is just integrating into all field and to give you that very big advantage you need.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And to add to the BA one, to be honest, you could be working on a project that is PaaS, you'll be working on a project that is AaaS, and you could be working on a project that it's even SaaS. That SaaS is common. Sometimes out of the project there, 50% of them will be SaaS anyway that you are going to be working on. So you need to know that. And also you need to know the infrastructure that you are building in, right? So as a BA, so these days it's not like I can write feature files or something like that. It's more than that. So thank you, Solomon, for that. So and I know Pat, you are raising your hand. Any question or any addition? Pat, if you are talking, you are muted. Pat, can you hear us? Okay. All right. So any other question? Yeah, okay. You're not, oh, okay. Apologies. I think I was not able to yeah, I actually locked down this particular call because yeah, so I'm going to enable that anyway 1 minute so that everyone can ask their question. So I think that was the issue. So 1 minute, she said she's not able to unmute. Okay. All right, so you can go for it now. Thank you. Apologies for that.
Hi. Okay, thank you, Deji. Hi, Solomon. Thank you so much for the delivery tonight. I heard you say that it's okay to learn everything generally, and then you can now narrow down to whatever direction you want to go in the cloud space. So, in terms of narrowing down, if you have to write, is it a must to write like a few certifications towards that tends towards the area you want to specialize in before you launch out into the market, or what you teach is enough for someone coming from an experienced IT background to pick up and run with into the job market? Thanks.
Yes, so I always tell people the most controversial discussion I have with IT professionals most times comes when we are talking about certification. So I was that guy that I I I do tell my friends back then that certifications, once I have the skill, I don't really need certifications. But I'm on a different side now. Now I'm going to tell you why. If you learn, like you narrow down, learn what you want to learn, you can actually get a job. But when it comes to career, I always tell people that the way the world is or the job market is, you have to sell your market. And when you're selling your market, you have to build chances. Now, why I'm saying you have to build chances is you can learn, you can have the skill, but I always tell people as you're learning and trying to acquire the skill, just take certifications. Now, the reason is you might actually go to for an interview, drop your CV somewhere. Some companies, they might not care about certification, but if you have it, it's not a problem. I can choose to take it off my CV. But what if I apply for a job that they care about certification and I don't have it? There's no way I can put what I don't have. I can only take off what I have, or I can leave what I have and they choose to say, okay, it's not the certifications we are interested in. Let's look at the scale, and you have the scale. So when you're pushing your career, doing all of that, I always tell people try to have that balance where you give yourself more advantage in terms of certifications. If it is not needed, you're not losing anything. And if you don't know, most of the Microsoft partners, like the big Microsoft partners, check them out. Most of the people they hire have certifications from Microsoft. And the reason they're having those certifications from Microsoft is because for you to become a Microsoft partner right now, you need to have employees with some certain certifications before they give you, hey, okay, this is what you can do for us as a partner. So if probably you have the opportunity to see one of those big Microsoft partner and you have the skills to get in there, and someone else is dropping their CV, right? The person might have the same skill you have, but when you come in with certifications, right, they would definitely look at yours. And when you have all of this certification, I tell people try as much as possible to validate it. Don't be that guy that have certifications and then they're asking you, what is this? And you're like, you're lost. So while you're taking certification, try as much to be that person that is also understanding, trying the labs, doing a lot of stuff. So if you're doing a lot of stuff, I tell people, if you have the skill and you have the certification, it is perfect. Like you're not losing anything. But most people say if you have the skill, the certification does not matter, right? But when the certification matters and you have the skill, or probably they meet somebody that have the skill and the certification, and you have the skill without the certification, and the organization needs someone that is certified, it is the person with the certification that will take. So you can actually learn the skill, understand it as a professional, but please, if you can do certifications, like if you know it's not going to cost you anything in terms of maybe going extra or killing yourself to get it alongside as you're going. As you're getting the skill, get the certification, it's going to help you. For me, I changed. I have a lot of certifications. I can probably write some certifications because I have an idea about it, but I don't really go to write them. The reason is I always try to understand what the certification is about. I go through the Microsoft Learn, try to practice it a lot, then I go take the certification because I don't want to fail as well. Because if I fail, I will lose my money. So if you learn it and then you go write the certification, you'll see you're going to pass it easily because most of the stuffs, as you're just seeing them, they'll be making meaning. And even if you don't score everything, you will score what will give you the certification. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you so much, Solomon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon, for that. So yeah, balance it, okay. The experience is important and also the certificate is as well important. And I like the word I use. You need to validate your certificate. Validation means that, yeah, as you get the certificate, also get the experience. Don't go for an interview, they say, oh, this is an MCP, and eventually you cannot do what is on the certificate. Yeah, validate with experience. Thank you so much. And I think this is where we are going to draw the curtain. So what's going to happen? Solomon will still be here. I will let you know. So what I want you to do, go to this particular link, register, so that when we are doing the next one, right, we will send you an email. So I don't know the time yet because Solomon is very, very busy. We had the chat a few days ago, and I think his itinerary is so jam-packed right now. So, and he said, okay, it might be October, it might be November, but of course, there will be follow-on one that we have to do so that it can become that. So I know he also mentioned about the support, the 365. There's a lot that we can do together. I'm also motivated right now. So, Solomon, your call, you're going to receive my call to actually discuss this as well. But if you are here, you are interested in moving this forward, actually want to, or you are also interested in learning about cloud or M365 or SharePoint or anything that he has spoken about. So please just go to this particular link and yeah, and we can talk together. And also you can also link him on follow him on LinkedIn as well. Just search for his name, Solomon Jeremiah, anyway, and it's always on LinkedIn. He's always on LinkedIn anyway. So, and perhaps you are also interested in our programs that we've started, diploma in IT and also certificate in IT. If you are interested in becoming a software tester and as well as cybersecurity, we have a program. It's basically together. So, or you want to know data analysis as a Scrum Master, or you want to know data analysis as a business analyst as well, and also Scrum Master and project management. So you have an option of doing a certificate in IT and as well as a diploma in IT. Diploma in IT is for 12 months, and then certificate in IT is for 3 months. And you are going to be given a certificate by Christ Redeemer's College. It's going to be a diploma by them or certificate by them, but we're going to give you a practical experience on this anyway. So that's what we're going to do. And we've actually started onboarding from September 16th. So it's still open for you to apply. If you have anyone that are struggling to get into IT space, they are looking to, how can I do it? So you have mentors that will assist you to be able to get on board and help you during the journey, whether you want to be a cybersecurity expert or you want to be a business analyst or Scrum Master or project manager or even software tester anyway. So, and that is what we do right now. So for the next few weeks right now, we are doing the free training. You can join anytime from 9 p.m. so that you can be able to learn from this anyway. So, okay. All right. Thank you so much once again, Solomon, for this session. So yeah, would kind of get that. So I think on this time I would say, wow, 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 wow. This is really, really eye-opener for all of us anyway. So yeah, if this particular sessions has really, really opened your eyes on this, can you put a 7 on the chart? So, and you really enjoyed it as well, and you want to say, yeah, I want to come back again next time. Can you put a 7 on the chart to actually say thank you, Solomon, for doing this session for us? So as you can see, that law 7 there. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah. So thank you, Solomon, for that. You can see this our feedback for you. And yeah, you can. And another thing also is like, so sometimes when you see some program, you start with a big number and they drop as you go along. You can see we even to the end we still have like 71 people on this particular call, and I think yeah, it shows that you've been able to do very well in coordinating and making sure, and we want to also continue with that as well. Thank you so much, everyone. And I want to say thank you everyone for joining. So do have a good night. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, cheers. Bye, everyone. Yeah.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.